I never thought my life could take such a sharp turn. My name is Daniel, I'm 42, and I've been married to Veronica for 7 years. I also have a stepdaughter, Lily, who's 16. When I first joined their lives, I hoped for a smooth transition, a blended family that could eventually feel natural. But reality had other plans. It all started quietly, almost imperceptibly. Veronica had been distant for months. Long hours at work, frequent girls' nights out, and late-night phone calls she never shared details about. I brushed it off at first, telling myself I was overthinking, that trust was the foundation of any marriage. I tried to be supportive, hoping our bond would strengthen over time. Then came the night I found out she cheated. A casual glance at her messages, something that normally wouldn't have caught my attention, revealed the truth. There was no misunderstanding, no room for misinterpretation. She was seeing someone else, someone she claimed was just a friend, though the intimacy in their messages made it painfully clear it was far more than that. I confronted her quietly the next morning. "Veronica, I know what's happening," I said, hoping for some honesty. Her reaction was cold, dismissive. "Daniel, you're being dramatic. It's nothing serious, don't make it a big deal." But it was serious. For me, it wasn't just betrayal. It was the foundation of our family crumbling under my feet. To make matters worse, Lily, my stepdaughter, seemed to reject me completely. She wouldn't talk, avoided my attempts at connection, and treated me like a stranger in her own home. I tried everything, small gestures, helping with homework, even just sitting quietly during family dinners, but nothing worked. Every effort was met with cold indifference, subtle hostility, or outright rejection. The combination of Veronica's betrayal and Lily's rejection hit me harder than I expected. I felt trapped in a home that should have been my sanctuary, but had become a cage. I realized that stepping forward aggressively would only make things worse. So I made the hardest decision I'd ever faced. I stepped back. I withdrew emotionally, silently observing, trying to survive without causing explosions in a household already fraught with tension. The months that followed were quiet, almost painfully so. I kept my distance, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Every attempt to bridge the gap with Veronica or Lily had ended in frustration or outright rejection, and I realized that forcing closeness would only push them further away. I focused on my work, keeping routines for the kids, and tried to create a sense of normalcy without overstepping boundaries that weren't respected. It was lonely, yes, but it also gave me clarity. I could see the patterns I had ignored before. The subtle ways Veronica manipulated situations to make herself the victim. The way Lily's attitude mirrored her mother's dismissive behavior. And I understood something critical. If I wanted any chance at peace, I had to prioritize my own emotional safety first. I couldn't change them, but I could control how I responded. One evening, I tried a simple, cautious approach. "Lily, I thought we could make some cookies together just for fun," I suggested. She looked at me like I had asked her to walk a tightrope without a safety net. "No thanks," she muttered, already turning away. I didn't push. I smiled faintly and walked back to my room, letting her have her space. That small step of stepping back was hard, but it was necessary. I began noticing something unexpected. The less I pressed, the calmer our home became. Meanwhile, Veronica's behavior continued to reveal cracks. She would make small remarks in front of friends about how I was too controlling, or obsessed with approval, twisting every word I had said over the past months. It stung, but I reminded myself that my goal wasn't to fight her or prove anything. My goal was to survive emotionally and maintain my dignity. I had to let go of trying to control how she saw me, and focus on what I could control. My own actions, my own integrity. Through this quiet withdrawal, I began to rebuild myself piece by piece. I worked out more, focused on my hobbies, and spent time with the kids in ways that didn't invite resistance. I wasn't ignoring life. I was creating a version of it where I could breathe, think clearly, and wait for the right moment to address the chaos without losing myself in the process. Nearly a year passed this way. Quiet observation, patient distance, and careful self-preservation. I had come to accept that Veronica might never change, that Lily might never fully embrace me as her stepfather. But life has a way of shifting in unexpected ways. And it was during this time that everything began to change. It started subtly. Lily, who had once ignored me completely, began leaving small notes around the house. Little drawings, short messages saying thanks or good morning. At first, I brushed it off as coincidence, but soon it became a pattern. She started speaking to me in the mornings, asking questions about my day, and even laughing at some of my jokes. The transformation was slow, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. Veronica noticed the shift as well. The cold distance that had defined our interactions for months began to thaw, though cautiously. One evening, she called me into the living room. "Daniel," she said quietly, "I see how much effort you've put into this family, even when it wasn't easy. I misjudged you. I should have appreciated you more." Her voice was soft, tinged with regret, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of the connection we once had. It wasn't an overnight miracle, but the patience and distance I had practiced allowed space for reflection. I had allowed them both to realize the impact of their actions without pressure from me. And that reflection became a catalyst for change. Lily's acceptance, Veronica's recognition, they didn't come from me forcing it. They came from their own awareness and the consequences of the choices they had made over the past year. I remember sitting on the porch that evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, thinking about how far we had come. I hadn't pushed, I hadn't demanded, and I hadn't compromised my own peace. And yet, the family I had feared was lost slowly returned. Not in the same form as before, but in a stronger, more honest way. Respect, understanding, and quiet reconciliation replaced hostility, distance, and false accusations. Looking back, I understand now that stepping back wasn't giving up. It was a strategic, emotional decision. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing at all, letting people face their own truths and allowing change to happen naturally. 1 year later, Veronica and Lily were no longer obstacles. They were partners in a fragile, but genuine, attempt at rebuilding our family. And I had learned a lesson I will never forget. Sometimes patience and self-respect are the strongest actions of all.